Put two jack stands side by side on a shelf. Same steel, same rating, same price, same paint, same box. One of them will hold your car, the other one won't, and there's no test you can run in the aisle or in your driveway or under your own vehicle that will tell you which one you brought home. That's not a hypothetical. It's the exact finding in a federal recall covering more than 1.7 million units. 9 tools that are quietly destroying your car, 5 that deserve to be in your garage, and the 4-second check that tells the two apart. Here's what makes this list different from every other bad tools video. Almost every tool on it works. That's the problem. A tool that fails immediately gets returned. A tool that fails on the 99th use, after you've already learned to trust it, is far more dangerous, because by then, you've stopped checking it. Every item here has the same shape. It performs correctly, it earns your confidence, and then it releases all of that stored trust at once. Usually while your hands are somewhere they can't be pulled back from. We're counting down from 9, and the last 3 are the ones that put people in emergency rooms. Stay with me for the good news at the end, because there's a genuinely simple way to avoid every single one of these. Number 9. Cheap stamped sockets and slip joint pliers. This is the least dangerous item on the list and the most expensive one, because it doesn't hurt you. It just quietly destroys your car, one fastener at a time. A quality socket grips the flats of a bolt head. A cheap stamped socket grips the corners. That distinction sounds academic until you meet a seized caliper bracket bolt. The corners are the weakest geometry on a fastener, and once a cheap socket rounds them off, that bolt is no longer a bolt. It's a drilling and extraction job, and on a suspension or subframe fastener, it can mean a bill in the hundreds before anyone has actually fixed the thing you set out to fix. Slip joint pliers on a brake line fitting do the same thing faster. The real cost of a bargain socket set is never the set. It's the first fastener it ruins. Number 8. The torque wrench that has never been calibrated. Almost nobody thinks of this as a dangerous tool, which is exactly why it belongs here. A torque wrench is a precision instrument with a spring inside it, and that spring drifts. Left wound up on its highest setting in a drawer for 2 years, a cheap click wrench can drift far enough that it reads correct and delivers something else entirely. Under torque, your wheel fasteners, and the clamping force isn't there. The wheel doesn't fall off in the driveway. It works loose over hundreds of miles, elongates the stud holes, and then separates at speed. Over-torque them and you stretch the studs permanently and warp the brake rotor, which is where that pulsing pedal you've been chasing actually came from. Both outcomes look like something else went wrong. Neither one looks like the wrench. Number 7. Plastic ramps and ramps rated by the wrong number. Ramps feel like the safe option. There's no pin, no pawel, nothing to disengage, and the car is sitting on a solid wedge. The failure isn't the ramp, it's the number printed on it and the floor underneath it. Many ramps are rated by gross vehicle weight rather than axle weight, and a lot of people read the larger number, assume they have enormous margin, and load a truck well past what that ramp was designed for. The second problem is friction. A plastic ramp on a smooth sealed concrete floor doesn't stay put. It skates forward under the tire as you drive up, so the car pushes the ramp instead of climbing it, and the moment the front wheel drops off the leading edge, the vehicle lands on whatever is underneath. Usually that's the front bumper cover, sometimes it's a person. Number 6. Concrete blocks used as vehicle supports. Everyone has seen this, and everyone who has seen it has been told it's fine, because it held last time. Concrete masonry units are engineered for one thing, which is steady compression, straight down, evenly distributed, in a wall. That's the entire design case. A car doesn't load them that way. A car loads them through a narrow contact patch on a pinch weld, off-center, with lateral force added every time you lean on a breaker bar. Concrete is brittle. Brittle materials don't sag, creak, or bend to warn you. They hold their full rating right up until the instant they don't, and then they fail completely, in fragments, with no intermediate stage where you get to notice and step back. There's no version of this that's acceptable, and there's no price point that makes it acceptable, because proper stands cost less than the deductible on a hospital visit. Number 5. Leaving the car on the trolley jack. This is the most common shortcut in home mechanics, and the reasoning behind it feels sound. The jack lifted the car. The jack is clearly strong enough to hold the car. Why add a second tool? Here's why. A hydraulic jack holds the load with pressurized fluid trapped behind a seal, and every seal in the world leaks a little. It's called bleed down, and it's not a defect. It's a property of the design. The jack is built to lift, not to hold. Leave a vehicle on one for 20 minutes and it will settle. Leave it there while you torque against a stubborn fastener and the lateral load can walk the jack sideways off its contact point entirely. The jack is a lifting device. A stand is a holding device. Using either one for the other job is where a very large number of these incidents begin. Number 4. Non-rated discs on an angle grinder. An angle grinder spins at roughly 12,000 rotations per minute. Every disc engineered for it is designed to flex slightly under sideways load because sideways load is unavoidable in real work, and a disc with no flex at that speed doesn't bend, it shatters. The imported chainsaw-style disc, a ring of chain teeth pressed into a flat steel plate, has no designed flex whatsoever. The instant the cut binds or the blade catches an edge, it doesn't stall like a saw. It climbs at full speed toward the hands and the face of whoever's holding it. The documented injury pattern includes severed fingers and deep lacerations to the throat and jaw. No major grinder manufacturer has ever listed these as an approved accessory for their tools. That's not an oversight, that's the entire message. And if you think that one is bad, the next three are where this stops being about your wallet. Everything from here on has a documented record of putting people in hospital. And number 1 is the only item on this list that came with a federal recall attached. Number 3. Hook-style spring compressors. A coil spring on a strut assembly stores a genuinely enormous amount of energy, enough to send a steel component through a wall, and that's not a figure of speech. A spring compressor exists to hold that energy in place while you take the strut apart. The early and cheap design is 2 hooked steel claws that you thread onto the coils by hand, with no secondary retention of any kind. Nothing captures the hook if it slips. Nothing tells you the grip is failing before it fails. If one hook walks off the coil during compression, the spring releases everything it has stored in a fraction of a second, and the compressor itself becomes a projectile alongside it. Documented injuries include orbital fractures, permanent vision loss, and fatalities. Professional shops are required to use caged compressors that fully capture the spring. The open hook versions stayed on retail shelves for consumers long after that requirement existed. That one at least announces itself. The last two don't, and that's precisely what makes them worse. Both of them sit under your car looking completely correct right up until the moment they're not. Number 2. Pin and notch stamped steel jack stands. These earned a nickname in the trade, and it wasn't affectionate. The design is simple: a stamped steel post, a series of notches, and a pin you drop through to set the height. It's cheap to make, it looks entirely adequate, and for most of its life it is. The failure mode is the pin. Under sustained load, with the small lateral movements that come from a wrench working against a tight fastener, the pin can creep partially out of its notch. The stand doesn't drop in that moment. It settles, by fractions of an inch, silently, until the geometry passes the point where it can support anything at all. Then it lets go completely. A vehicle weighing 3,000 pounds gives no reaction time. The interval between the first movement and the car reaching the ground is measured in tenths of a second. And that brings us to number 1, which is the one I promised you at the very start. It's not a design flaw somebody argued about on a forum. It's a defect the manufacturer found, documented, and reported to the federal government themselves, and the paperwork is public. Number 1. Ratchet bar stands with shallow tooth engagement. This is the recall I opened with, and the details are worth hearing properly, because the manufacturer documented all of it themselves. In 2020, Harbor Freight filed 3 separate recalls with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration on their Pittsburgh automotive steel jack stands. Roughly 454,000 6-ton units in March. Roughly 1,254,000 3-ton units in May. Then a further 118,000 of the replacement stands in July. That's more than 1.7 million units. The cause, traced back through the original manufacturer, was aging production tooling. The dies that formed the ratchet teeth had worn, so the teeth were coming out shallower than specification, and a shallow tooth doesn't engage the pawl deeply enough to hold under load. It slips. To their credit, the company found it, reported it, and replaced them. But here's the part that matters for you. Those stands didn't look defective. On the shelf, a stand with correct teeth and a stand with worn teeth are visually identical. So how many people does this actually hurt? The honest answer is that nobody really knows, and that's its own kind of scandal. The only nationwide study ever run on this was carried out by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration over a single year, from 1994 to 1995. It estimated 4,822 people treated in emergency rooms in that 1 year for injuries from jack failures. Roughly 96% required that emergency visit. About 3/4 of them were struck by the vehicle as it came down. That study is more than 30 years old, and no one has repeated it since. Every number you see quoted online today traces back to that one survey, which means the figure you're hearing isn't the current problem. It's the last time anybody bothered to measure it. But here's the good news, and it's genuinely simpler than the last 12 minutes might suggest. There's one marking that separates equipment that has been independently proven from equipment that has merely been manufactured. Look for the letters ASME on the box or stamped into the stand itself, referencing the Portable Automotive Service Equipment Standard. That standard governs design, construction, marking, and inspection for jacks, stands, and vehicle supports, and qualification testing under it includes loading a stand to 200% of its rated capacity, double what it claims to hold. A stand that carries that mark has been tested to fail at twice its rating. A stand without it has been tested to whatever the factory felt like that week. That single check, done in about 4 seconds in the aisle, eliminates almost everything we just covered. Now, here are the 5 worth your money. Number 5, Sunex. Sunex sits in an unusual position. It's priced within reach of anyone doing their own work, but it holds a serious share of the professional market, which is the tell that matters. Professional buyers replace equipment out of their own revenue. They use it every single day rather than 4 times a year, and they have no patience for anything that fails early. When a brand survives in that environment while staying affordable, the value is real rather than marketed. Their heavier capacity stands in particular are the ones you see under working vehicles in actual shops, not in catalog photographs. If you're replacing a set of bargain stands and you want the shortest possible distance between what you spend and what you get, this is where most people should start looking. Number 4, Hein Werner. Hein Werner is the name that comes up constantly among people who have been doing this for 30 years, and the reason is conformance. Their stands are built to the American Society of Mechanical Engineers Portable Automotive Service Equipment Standard, which is exactly the mark we just talked about. One point of honesty here, because this channel doesn't do marketing copy. You'll see this brand described online as American made, and that's not quite the full picture. The cast uprights and the final assembly, painting and inspection happen at their Kansas City facility, while other components are produced overseas. That's still meaningfully more domestic content and more domestic quality control than almost anything else at the price. But it's partially, not wholly American made, and you deserve the accurate version. Number 3, race ramps. This one is on the list for a different reason than the others. Every failure we've discussed so far comes from a mechanism: a pin that creeps, a pawl that slips, a seal that bleeds, a hook that walks off a coil. Solid ramps have no mechanism at all. There's nothing to disengage because there's nothing that engages. They're a single molded piece. They're light enough to move with one hand, and critically, they're designed with a grippy base that doesn't skate across sealed concrete the way cheap plastic ramps do. For oil changes, exhaust work, and anything else that doesn't require the wheels off, this removes the entire category of failure rather than managing it. That's always the better engineering answer. I have put links to the exact ones I use down in the description. Number 2, OTC. OTC, the Owatonna Tool Company, is what sits on the tool cart in dealership service departments, and that context is the whole recommendation. Dealer technicians are flat rate. Their income depends directly on how fast they can work, which means they're structurally hostile to any tool that slows them down or needs replacing. Equipment doesn't survive in that environment on brand loyalty. It survives because it keeps working. Their stands and supports carry the ratings and the build quality you would expect from that world. And while they cost more than the bargain aisle, they're priced for people who are buying tools once rather than annually. If you want the set you'll still be using in 20 years, this is the tier where that becomes realistic. Number 1, ESCO. ESCO takes the top spot for the reason that matters most on this particular list, which is independent verification. Their stands are tested to the American Society of Mechanical Engineers standard by an outside laboratory holding accreditation from the American Association for Laboratory Accreditation. Read that again, because the distinction is everything. Not tested by the company that makes them, not certified by a mark the company designed itself, tested by an accredited third party whose entire business depends on not being wrong. On a piece of equipment whose only job is to hold several thousand pounds above a person, independent proof isn't a premium feature. It's the feature. Everything else is a claim. Links for all 5 of these are in the description if you want to check the current prices yourself. So that's the list. 9 tools quietly costing you money and occasionally far more than money, and 5 that are genuinely worth owning. If you take one thing away from this, make it the 4-second check. Look for those 4 letters before you put anything under a vehicle. If you've got value out of this, subscribe, because it genuinely helps the channel more than you would think, and there's a lot more of this coming. And before you go, there's one more thing sitting in most garages that I deliberately left off this list because it's not a tool at all. It's the surface you park on. Concrete that looks perfectly solid can fail under a point load in a way that no stand can compensate for, and that one is going to need a video of its own.